what was your nutrition like before finding fitness?
So before finding CrossFit in general, my nutrition was a little bit all over the place, I would say, where I knew how to eat healthy and I know what healthy, not healthy was, but I almost went on these stints of I wanted to lose weight. And so because of it, I would not eat throughout the day and then I would go on these like binges at night. Still not eating unhealthy, but it was just inappropriate and maybe at sometimes not enough. And it all revolved around because I wanted to look a certain way. And everything that I did was exactly the opposite of what I needed. But yeah, and that was kind of back in 2014. So just kind of starting college. But then even prior in high school, my eating habits there were eating as little as possible to feel as little as possible, be skinny, and to fit in the tightest jeans and the tightest sizes. So I would eat carrots and I would document how much spinach I ate. And yeah, so it was very much for a long time around the idea of like eating less to be less to feel less.
How did it change in both positive and negative ways after finding CrossFit?
So after finding CrossFit, it was interesting because I almost needed CrossFit in my life to give me direction on how to pursue other healthy habits, and everything since then, everything was around now how can I fuel to give me energy for my workouts. So it kind of naturally shifted without, relying on too much help at the moment, like to be a little bit more aware on what I'm eating, how am I feeling. So I started to eat more appropriately because everything that I did in the day was like, I want to feel good for my CrossFit workouts. So it got me to eat a little bit better. It wasn't perfect. Maybe it still wasn't what I needed to be doing, but it just gave me that much more purpose, and it stopped being I'm going to eat or not going to eat to feel skinny, but I'm going to eat to feel energized and healthy and strong so I could PR my lifts or so I could, get a good time in the workout. And so that was probably the best thing that could have happened without really almost like focusing on it, kind of naturally paved the way. But nevertheless, it's still not perfect.
Is there a specific moment when you knew you had to start eating to fuel your body versus not? Or was it like a gradual?
Yeah, so it's not like you wake up one day and you're just like, I figured it out, right? It's not like this like click of the button. It's kind of just experimenting. So one of the things that I did was I followed a bunch of my favorite CrossFit athletes. And one of the things, the beauty of Instagram is you do get to like follow people's stories and their journeys, whether they want to be transparent or not. But those that I followed, I love like seeing what are the great athletes doing. Just do that, right? And everyone's different. But I started to, okay, well, if so-and-so is performing a certain way and she's showing what she eats throughout the day, what I eat in a day is still a thing. And I love that. So I was like, okay, like she's eating rice and chicken and bagels and delicious foods. And sure enough, that was kind of a start. But then I started to amp up training a lot. And then my habits weren't enough. I wasn't eating enough, and I started to feel that. So that's when I started to reach out to Mike specifically. It led, up to 2019. I amped up training, and now everything that I was eating in my mind was for performance. But then it came to training was so hard and intense and hours a day that I started to feel the effects of not eating enough again.
Was there times when you knew you should be eating more but chose not to due to social pressures?
I would say, yeah. Like specifically, it wasn't pressures put on by anyone specifically. I think it was just if I felt bloated or if I felt like if I looked in the mirror and I'm just like, I don't like this right now. I don't like how this looks or present or whatever. I feel fat. That's very common. It's like, I just feel fat today. So the last thing I'm going to do is just eat an entire breakfast or eat a full lunch just because that feeling of fat was something that would prevent me from wanting to. And it wasn't necessarily because I felt the pressure of anyone else, but it was something that I just kind of imposed on myself. And I think everyone struggles with that in their own way. And a lot of it does stem from, the feelings that I used to feel in high school. And back in high school, I weighed 105 pounds. I went from a healthy 125, 135 to losing all this weight. But because I lost all this weight, Fee, oh my God, you look so good. Oh my God, you lost all this weight. Oh my God, you're so tiny. You look amazing. And all those, affirmations of, wow, I look amazing skinny, and people are noticing. That was the feeling of feeling good. So I think that always lingers. And to look a certain way will make you feel a certain way is something that is always a struggle. Even now, even still.
Is there anything that you would go back and tell your younger self, or anyone looking to get into the sport of CrossFit who maybe still has that stigma of I need to look skinny and be skinny and then still perform?
Yeah, one thing that I would, if I were to talk to my younger self, right, I would say to her maybe, what fitness is, what living is, right, in general, is a celebration of all the things that you can do and pursue and express. And if you're limiting yourself to looking a certain way or being smaller, being skinny, you'll never tap into what you truly could give to yourself and other people. And to just try to shift the perspective to what do you need to do to feel your best versus the aesthetic side. And if you could focus on little things throughout the day, and if you're able to look at your plate or look at your habits, right, and reflect and say, you know what, doing this will make me feel good, but it'll also, give me and show me my potential in whatever it is I'm pursuing, whether it's a sport, whether it's a job, whether it's having energy to study, right? Will this give me energy, and will this bring out the best in me? If the answer is yes, then go for it. If the answer is no, then there's something there that we need to think twice about and maybe dial in again.
So you've been actively trying to gain weight to get stronger. Has that been a hard process mentally?
Yeah. That was, I guess it was I would say a little bit scary, just because I've been back in 2019, I reached out to Mike, and at the time, and even up until last year, 2021, I was still technically one of the smaller athletes in the field, about 125, 127, and I've just been that weight for the last several years, not for any specific reason. I think I've always just kind of floated around that. But as soon as we realized, I talked to my coach, what will it take of me to build the gains that I need to build to, not take 20th, 26th place finishes on strength events, right? That was a huge hole for me last year, and it just came down to, part of it was my size, right? You could only move so much mass at a certain weight. And so Mike and Matt, my coaches, were we need to build some mass in a healthy way. And it immediately made me scared, because I don't want to feel fat again. That since high school still. Like I said, it still lingers. And that's something that I just needed to trust. And I needed to know that, going back, everything that we do will make me feel good. And this is going to benefit me in the long run. And it'll be a process that's slow. But again, even gaining weight, the word gain to me and to anyone is right, big, right? You think gain, you think big. And that's the one thing. I don't want to feel big, be big, move big. And it's probably as of recently, I feel finally the best I've ever felt. But I still have my days, and Mike knows it. But it was a scary process, but I know it's benefiting me in all the right ways, and mentally, I'm so much more confident in myself. It's cool. It's cool to say that. Yeah.
In the sport of CrossFit, you guys are judged on how you perform on the floor, and yet social media, you're almost judged on what you can look like and not what you can do. Has that been a struggle at all, balancing the social media versus performance side of things?
I think for me now, it's not a struggle, just because I've learned to just, I guess, really love who I am and what I do, and like everything that, however my body looks like, it's not something that's not my focus, but it's a representation of my hard work. But it's not because I look it, but I feel it, right? And I'm so confident in that. And I think people that struggle, or maybe me a couple years ago, would truly struggle with that, like knowing that I could, feel and look or feel a certain way or lift a certain way, but it not be seen originally would be a struggle, right? Because you feel like you have to fit this mold of like the CrossFit Games athlete, the abs, the biceps, the back muscles, because people still, notice those things. They will go on your comments and say that. I've had specifically a message, like he DM'd me and said something about like, you're not as strong as the other girls, you're not as ripped as the other girls, but you do all this training and you can't have a six-pack. So it's that kind of idea of, wow, people still go out of their way to knock these athletes that my focus is to train, but their one thing that they notice is Fee doesn't have a six-pack, and apparently it still matters, right? So when it comes to that, I still get it. I think we all do at some point, and it's just important to not respond and pretty much delete. So it happens, but I think my confidence has gotten a lot better. It's not perfect, and I still have my days, and I feel like every athlete would tell you that. I really do. Even they look great, but we don't always feel great because we're human beings, and human beings bleed and feel and cry. And so I get emotional. Yeah. It'll always be, I think, a part of my past that hurts. But I'm so happy that I'm not that anymore. And it's cool to relate to girls and help girls that maybe are in that. And now it's like there's role models that I didn't have. So it's special to me.
You know that you're also one of those role models, right, for those kids, like
Thank you.
coming into the sport, for sure. Not even just the sport, just girls who are on Instagram looking to find other girls who are proud of being strong and confident. So
I love it. Thank you.
thank you for
Woo!
I appreciate it.
Woo! Fee
Sorry,
gets
I didn't
emotional at some point.
That's okay.
That's good. That's raw. We like that. And I think it's good to talk about because I think people do think like, oh, life is so great and you must feel so good all the time. Like, you must be so happy all the time. It's like, yeah, but no.
Yeah, I mean, social media is
Yeah.
the highlight reel, right? Like,
It is.
People don't see like the struggles or the DMs or any of the hard, tough stuff that you guys still have to go through. As not even just as athletes, but as humans. You know.
I think my favorite messages have always been like, because you showed, this transparency, I've been able to, attack this hard situation in my life with a lot more purpose or direction or confidence. And that's so cool. And, there's so many things that we see that it's like, what value does showing, XYZ give to someone's life? But when you're able to share your story and your purpose and it's your testimony to maybe help someone else, that's like super powerful. So I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for capturing that. Woo! Okay.